Fight fans, welcome to the PBC Podcast, brought to you by Premier Boxing Champions with your host, Kenneth Bouhairie and Michael Rosenthal.
Welcome, everyone, to the PBC Podcast. I'm Kenneth Bouhairie.
And I'm Michael Rosenthal, editor of USA Today's Boxing Junkie.
I want to thank you guys, as always, for tuning in. We missed you all last week as it was all about the official press tour for the historic clash between Errol Spence Jr. and Terence Crawford. But we're glad to be back this week, and we've got plenty of boxing to discuss. Unified Super Bantamweight champion Stephen Fulton Jr. will be joining us. We'll also look back at Tim Tszyu's monster KO win, along with Sam Goodman's big night. And speaking of Spence versus Crawford, on toe-to-toe, Mike and I will reflect on that press tour last week. So let's get into it, beginning with the PBC fight of the week. This Saturday, June 24th, Carlos Adames defends his interim WBC middleweight title versus former unified champion Julian Williams, headlining a Premier Boxing Champions tripleheader live on Showtime. Action begins at 9 p.m. Eastern Time, and we begin here with the essentials.
Okay, here we go. Carlos Adames, 22-1, 17 knockouts. Julian Williams, 28-3-1, 16 knockouts. Adames 4-1 in his last 5 with 3 KOs. Julian Williams 3-2 with 1 KO. Last fight for Adames, Juan Macias Montiel. Adames stopped him in 3. That was in October of last year. Last fight for Williams, Rolando Mancia, was a shutout decision in November of last year. 74% knockout percentage for Adames, 48 for Williams, 106 rounds for Adames, 194 for Williams, 29 years old. Adames is 29, Williams is 33. Adames turned pro 2015, Williams 2010. Both fight from an orthodox stance. Dimensions are similar. Adames is 5'11", Williams 5'10", 73-inch reach for Adames, 72.5 for Williams. Adames is from the Dominican Republic, but he lives in New York, and as we know, Mr. Williams is from Philadelphia.
Yeah, this is some pretty interesting information in that. Give us some perspective. What is the significance of this bout?
Yeah, I'll tell you why I like this fight. This isn't a stay busy fight for Adames. You know, it's close to getting a shot at a title. This is a genuine test, given what we know about Williams' ability. This is a real fight. And Adames has to win if he's going to, take that next step in his career. Meanwhile, Williams absolutely cannot afford to lose. So you have a matchup of two really talented guys. We'll see where they're at in their careers, but two really talented guys with a lot at stake. So I really like this matchup.
What are your thoughts on Adames as a fighter?
I think he's a complete fighter. He's athletic. He can box. He can punch. I think he's a student of the game, meaning he's willing to put the work in to get better. Remember, he told us that he learned in his loss to Patrick Tszyu in 2019 that you can't take anyone or anything for granted. You have to be prepared every single time out. He's reeled off 4 wins since then, including a breakthrough decision over Sergey Derevyanchenko in December 2021 and a knockout, veteran Juan Macias Montiel last October. I think he's one of the best in the division and probably getting better.
Yeah, that Montiel knockout was really, really impressive. And now he faces a former unified champion in Julian Williams. How important is this fight for J-Rock?
It might be do or die for him. He's a really good boxer when he's on. He's demonstrated that many times. Obviously the first time you think of, or the first fight you think of, is when he outclassed Jarrett Hurd in 2019 to win his title. The problem for Williams is that he's not always at his best. And I wonder about his chin also, to be honest. Jamal Charlo took him out in 2016, and Jason Rosario did the same thing in Williams' first defense after he beat Hurd. Then in his next fight, after the Rosario fight, he sort of inexplicably lost the decision to Vladimir Hernandez. I don't want to disrespect Hernandez, who's actually pretty good, but you'd think Williams would cruise past a guy like that. He can't afford that kind of performance against Adames. If he loses, particularly if he loses badly, he might be finished as an elite fighter.
Yeah, and you brought up the chin issue, which Adames brought that up a couple weeks back when we had him on the show. He's been hinting at a first-round KO win. Is Williams being underestimated here?
I doubt it. That's just gamesmanship. Maybe Adames trying to, win a mind game with Williams, get under his skin. As I just said a few minutes ago, I think Adames has learned his lesson. He learned his lesson against Teixeira. He's not going to look past anybody, particularly a guy as capable or potentially as capable as Williams is. He's not dumb. When Williams at his best, he's really, really good.
Yeah, exactly. How do you see this fight playing out?
I think Adames is going to stop him. I just think he has too much firepower for this version of Williams or the most recent version that we've seen. I don't think it's going to happen in the first round. I think Adames is going to have to work his way inside, and I think he will. He'll land more and more meaningful punches as the fight progresses, probably break him down, and I think at some point probably hurt him and stop him. I'm going to say KO8, but I want to add this. Williams is good enough to make me look like a fool. I just don't see that happening. I kind of hope he's near the top of his game because I want to see a good fight.
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot depends on which Julian Williams shows up. He had a chance to, shake off the rust a little bit in his last fight, and he does tend to rise to the occasion in moments like that. And I could see that happening in this fight. However, this may be a bridge too far. I'm with you. I like Adames by stoppage. I just think he's peaking. He's comfortable at 160, and he wants to make that statement. Now, in the coach feature, we've got a little bit of bad blood as Erickson Lubin and Luis Arias battle in a 10-round bout between junior middleweight contenders, and opening the telecast, undefeated IBF super flyweight champion Fernando Martinez defends his title against undefeated Filipino contender Jade Bornea. Let's bring in our guest this week. He's one of the very best in the world, and on July 25th, he takes on another great fighter, Naoya Inoue, in a true super fight with serious ramifications, Stephen Fulton Jr.
Cool. How's it going, man?
I'm good.
That's good to hear. This is arguably the biggest fight of your career, one of the biggest fights in boxing, a historic fight. Does it feel any different from the rest of your other fights?
As of now, no. And I wouldn't even say it is the biggest fight of my career.
Yeah.
It is the biggest fight of my career. And when I had that mindset of, not trying to shy away from it, this is the biggest fight of my career. I got to start, being straightforward with myself when it comes to things like this. That way I'm always relaxed when it's time to, handle business.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of people think this is, one of, if not the best matchup in the sport. What do you think makes it so special?
I feel like our resumes, the things that we've done in the sport, us being the number one guy in our divisions that are so close, how we fight, the stylistic matchup between us, I feel like it's a lot. Just to sum some of the things up.
I know I'm excited about it. How has camp been going so far?
It's been great. Yeah.
It's just getting started, right?
Slightly. I wouldn't even say just getting started. I've still been in shape and having some things from the last camp, the last time we were supposed to, fight. I pulled back on a lot of things, gave myself some more rest and things like that, but it's been great overall.
Good. Yeah, you led me right into my next question. So the fight was postponed after Inoue was injured. How much of a setback was that for you? It sounds like you just kind of rolled with it.
Yeah, that's all you gotta do is just roll with it. Don't make no excuses. Don't think too hard on it. Take another little week or two break off, and get right back to the motion. And that's what I've done. I went to the Davis Garcia fight out Vegas. Things like that.
I mean, you hear a lot about Inoue. You hear that he's a great fighter, arguably the best fighter, in the sport. How do you strike the balance between, on one hand, trying to tune out some of that, some of that stuff, but on the other hand, you still have to, prepare with the proper respect for his ability. How do you strike that balance?
I don't try to tune it out. I told you, I take everything in. I go towards the problem, and I look at it and I execute. You know, I don't really try to shy away from it. You know, I hear it, I see it, they believe it, and that's my job to prove them wrong.
Yeah,
or that's my job to, you know, overturn the decision that they're making against me, you know, and things like that. So that's how I look at it.
When I mean, does that motivate you?
Oh yeah. It's motivations at some point, but at other aspects, I really don't be caring. You know, I'm just, you know, I'm at a different level of my life where I'm maturing in different aspects and areas. So it's like, it's nothing that really moves me. I've seen great fighters. I've been in the ring with great fighters, outstanding fighters. I've been in the ring with some of the toughest. You know, I done been in the ring with a lot of great people. So certain things don't move me anymore to make me have a specific feeling against my next opponent.
When you look at it anyway, do you see a great fighter?
Yeah, he's a great fighter. You can't take nothing away from him. He's a great fighter.
You once said that you envisioned fighting Inoue years ago. Can you tell us how that came about? Like when and why did you start thinking about this?
It was 2021, but I feel like I've seen that before, but not with him. I just seen myself out in Japan, you know, fighting. I always seen myself out there fighting. But 2021, I had beat Angelo Leo. Soon, the moment I got out the ring, someone came to me, an interview or something, and said something about Inoue. And me and my coach was right there. I said, and I asked who, and then they said his name, whatever. But I didn't. This is my first time ever hearing about him. I just was like, I'm gonna go out there. I said, I'm gonna fight him. I said, why should I fight him out there? I said, I'm gonna go out to Japan. My coach was like, why would you go out to Japan and fight him? I said, it's bigger out there. I wasn't even talking about money. I just was saying everything. I was like, it's bigger. It's gonna make more sense out there. Why wouldn't it? I said, I'm gonna defend. I literally said I'm gonna defend my belts out there. I said, I'm gonna defend out there. I'm gonna fight for my belts out there. And he said, why would you? But why? He said, I know you always doing some crazy shit, but why? And I was like, because wasn't nobody else do nothing like that. Like, I'm different. Like, I feel like that's how my whole career has been, different, doing what others wouldn't do, and as well as believing in myself and knowing that I can do these type of things, you know, facing these, trying to test myself. You know, a lot of people may say, he fought 9 undefeated fighters, but who were they? Yeah, to y'all, it was who were they, but to me, I was testing myself. We didn't know we didn't know what these guys had the brain, you know, but you would know what a guy 28 and 13 had the brain. You get what I'm saying? I've always tested myself, and I always try to do the things that these guys wouldn't do. So once they came to me in 2021 and said, like, they brought his name, I automatically said, I'm gonna go out to Japan. And that's exactly how it happened.
I absolutely love that. You also led me into my next question again. You're going to be fighting in Japan, outside the United States for the first time. Is there any specific challenges to doing that you haven't endured before?
That's my first fight as a professional. So I haven't fought outside the country since like 2018, 19, I think. And that was when I was in the WSB and things like that. World Series Boxing, I was in WSB. And on the USA team, I went out Russia, St. Petersburg, Russia. And I fought out there. So this will be my first time in a long time competing, but more so at a professional, higher level. Yes, this will be my first time. I don't really feel, I mean, I can't say it won't be different because it will. I'm just got to make the adjustments, embrace it and make the adjustments. It's nothing to cry about. It's nothing to worry about, but just make the right adjustments at the right time.
Yeah, you just use the word professional. I guess that's what a professional does, right?
Yeah.
Do you do anything different in camp to account for the fact you're going to be fighting halfway around the world?
I train hard all the time, but the only thing I do different is I train for each fighter different, and that's the only thing. I don't go in doing the same things for the same fight for different fighters. I train accordingly to my opponents.
What do you think has made Inoue so successful in his career?
Say that last part again.
What do you think has made Inoue so successful in his career?
Him getting his knockouts. Yeah, him getting his knockouts and continue to win. You know, somebody always told me, Brother Nazim always told me that. It don't matter how you do it, get the win. That's all that matters, is a victory. Don't impress you ain't got to impress nobody. Julian Williams said that to me too. So there's no need to impress nobody. He's to get the win. And I feel like as well as him getting his win, he's impressing people with his knockouts. So I feel like that's why he's, you know, big in his country, and, you know, a lot of guys over here, like he has some skill with him as well.
Yeah. But you've been brimming with confidence, I mean, regarding this fight. Why will Stephen Fulton beat Naoya Inoue?
Because I'm smart.
You think you're the smarter fighter in the ring?
Yes. I believe in my mindset. I believe in my abilities. I'm very smart. There's nothing that I can't outthink. And I feel like it's nothing that God wouldn't allow me to want for myself that he wouldn't allow for me to have. And this is what I wanted for myself. I didn't take this fight to go out there, oh, it's money, let me go out there. No, I feel like that's what guys like. I ain't gonna say it, but that's what other guys want to do. That's not my mindset. My mindset is strictly going to do this because I know I can win, and I want to challenge myself while doing it. You know, I want to put myself to the test. This is a huge fucking fight, so why not try to live up to that moment? You know, I didn't just do this for no money. It's just what happened that, all right, I was offered some nice money, so it's like, all right, that's the icing on the cake. Let's do it. Let's go do it.
I don't know if you think about these things, but have you thought at all about what a win would do in terms of, you know, the great performances by Philadelphia fighters?
You said, what would a win do?
Yeah.
It'd take me to that next level in my career, but more so in life. You want to know what I want to do? Like, besides boxing, I want to be an actor. I want to be in movies and stuff like that. Fashion. I love clothes. I love getting dressed. So that'll open up those doors for me as well.
It's interesting. Okay. Later the same week on July 29th, Errol Spence and Terence Crawford are going to fight. Are you planning on being back on time to watch that fight?
Yes, everything goes right. I'm definitely in the building. I'm definitely in the building. That's a great fight. Yeah, that's a 50-50 fight as well.
Who do you think wins?
See, I'm going with Errol. That's a 50-50 fight. But I'm rocking with Errol. Although that's a 50-50 fight.
Why do you think Errol beats him?
I feel like he has not. I feel like he has the better resume. Like I feel like it's on the same as my aspect, the better resume. Like the type of opposition that we have faced. You know, he like he said, what was that yesterday? He took the belts from each of his opponents. Like each title holder, he took those. He went and got those. When he got in those accidents, he didn't look for a tune-up. He went straight towards the big dogs, and that's something that I would have done. And that speaks volume in his mindset and his ability to believe in himself. Crawford is a great, tremendous fighter as well, you know, and I feel like it's a 50-50 fight because the way Errol's style is, he's more so, you know, uptight, but, you know, he's more tight with his style, and Crawford is more elusive, like, you know, more loose with his. So it's like that type of matchup, and they're both the top guys. That's a hell of a fight. It's a 50-50 fight, and then they've been on a collision course for a long time. And this year we've been getting the fans been getting every fight that they wanted. So this is a great fight for the sport of boxing. Yeah. And then not only that, back to back, me and Inoue, Crawford and Spence.
Yeah, I was just gonna say that the fans are gonna be in heaven for a couple of weeks there, aren't they?
Yes, that's a great fight. This has been a great year for the fight fans. They've been getting what they wanted for years. They finally got it. But I can say I feel like even though Tank and them fought before us, I feel like we were a part of making this a great year, and along with a lot of other fighters wanting to fight each other as well. I'm not saying that we started it, but we definitely made our shit happen way earlier. Everybody else shit took years to make it happen. Well, ours, we hop right on it. That's the only thing that's the only difference between it. Everybody else took years to make their fights happen. Ours, it was the same year that he came in the weight class was the same year we fought.
Yeah, that's 100% true. So back to that fight. So He's moving up in weight, and I wonder about whether you're going to have a size advantage. Will you?
I feel like I'm gonna have a size advantage in height, weight, but none of that matters when it comes fight time, because it's a fight. You know, it only takes one punch, and it always did. We done seen some crazy. I know. See, y'all older. I know y'all done seen some crazy stuff that in the past few years of boxing, that it only took a punch. The guy was up, and then bam, and now what? So I don't think the size, it never came down to size. You know, I beat Figueroa. He's way bigger than me. Frame, height, everything. Weight, he's way bigger than me. So it never became down to size. So
that's what I was thinking of, is that Brandon Figueroa is like 10 times bigger than Inoue. So that's kind of what I was thinking, is that you go from this real big, strong guy to a guy that maybe is not quite that way.
Yeah, I understand.
Yeah. So the last question then. So when you envision this fight in your mind, how do you picture it's going to develop?
The fight?
Yeah.
I feel like it's going to develop, but I don't know. I think it's just going to be a great fight, honestly. I don't want to give too much, because then I may start talking about the things that I want to do in the ring that may affect the impact of the decision and things like that. But I feel like it's going to be a great fight. Overall, I feel like it's going to be an intriguing fight. It's going to be a technical fight, a very skillful, intelligent fight from both sides. I feel like once we both in there and we're warm, anything can happen. And that's my honest opinion. Once we in there and we warm and we're going at it and we trying to outthink one another, that shit going to be beautiful. And that's my honest opinion.
I know I speak for Ken when I say we cannot wait. Thanks so much for talking about the fight with us, and thanks for being with us.
No, thank you.
Errol Spence Jr. is one of the best boxers on planet Earth. And down goes Cal Brook. Errol Spence with some sweet combinations.
He is the winner by technical knockout.
You've got the 3 belts. What's next?
And now the unified welterweight champion of the world.
Everybody know who I want next. I want Terence Crawford next.
I do believe this is the perfect time. You got 2 great fighters in their prime for all the marbles. It's going to be an exciting fight. I just can't wait for it to happen.
That's the fight we all want to see.
There's been a back and forth a lot with you and Bud Crawford.
I don't know your number. Save it. I want all the smoke. But right now, I'm looking at Terence Crawford.
This is for Undisputed. This is a big moment for not only myself, but for Errol Spence Jr.
Saturday, July 29th, they're going to crown the first 4-belt Undisputed champion in 147-pound history.
The wait is over. Watch me fry this fish.
Yeah, I know what time it is, baby. Terence, I'm coming for that motherfucking belt.
Last Saturday, unbeaten interim WBO 154-pound champion Tim Tszyu looked absolutely devastating, scoring a first-round knockout over veteran contender Carlos Ocampo in a PBC on Showtime main event from Tszyu's native Australia. Mike, how scary did Tszyu look in this fight?
Remember, I texted you immediately afterward. My 2 words: holy crap!
Right.
We have to be careful when we assess his performance, because Campos isn't Jermell Charlo. That said, that acknowledged, I think it was the kind of performance that builds legends. I really believe that. The knockout was so brutal, so dramatic, so spectacular that it kind of took your breath away. It was that kind of stoppage. Only one guy had stopped Ocampo, and that was Errol Spence Jr., who also stopped Ocampo in 1 round. Tszyu did it a little bit quicker. That probably doesn't really mean that much in the long run, but it is something that gets the attention of the fans, I think. It might be comparable to, I thought of Canelo Alvarez knockout of James Kirkland, although I think Ocampo is much better than Kirkland is. So it was really, really a special performance. We might look back at that performance as the most spectacular of Tszyu's career when all is said and done. You know what I thought of real quick? Do you remember Sugar Ray Leonard's fight against Davey Boy Green?
Yes.
So if for those people listening, you haven't seen it, go back and watch it. It's just an unbelievably brutal knockout. And I was talking to somebody about that fight, and this person said that was Sugar Ray Leonard at his absolute best. I wonder if Tszyu is like at his absolute best right now.
Yeah, it seems like he's peaking. This was his second fight in 3 months. How has staying active helped Tszyu?
Well, of course, that's a positive. Traditionally, that's the best way to stay sharp, right? And obviously, the more you fight, the better you get. Tszyu is better now than he was when they were supposed to fight in January, with the victories over Harrison and now Tony Harrison and now Ocampo. He also is a bigger name now, which makes the showdown with Charlo even bigger. And finally, Charlo saw that performance. Charlo's not afraid of anybody. He wouldn't be afraid of fighting Tyson Fury. But the image of Tszyu absolutely just decimating that guy has to be in Charlo's mind. So that fight just got a lot more interesting.
So did last Saturday's fight change your perception of what a fight versus Jermall Charlo would look like for Tim Tszyu?
Yes, it did. As I've said on earlier podcasts, I think his all-around ability, Tszyu's all-around ability, and the edge and the ferocity that he brings into the ring is something that I've always really liked. But I saw something more in this performance. I saw an ability to destroy a good opponent that not many fighters possess. And I thought of something, look what Brian Castano did against Charlo in their first fight, even a little bit in the second fight. He gave him hell. And I think Tszyu is better than Castano, to be honest. I'm not saying that I would pick Tszyu to beat Charlo. I am saying that I think now more than ever that it's a pretty close to an even matchup, maybe 55-45, something like that.
Well, you brought up the Charlo fight. That was in May 2022. Should there be concern over Charlo's ring rust? He hasn't fought since.
My gut reaction is no. As I've said, it helps your sharpness to be active. That's obvious. This is the new thing in boxing, though. Guys go long periods without fighting, and almost all the top guys seem to do fine in spite of that. Would it help Charlo to take a tune-up fight? Sure. Is it necessary? I tend to think not. Plus, if they're going to fight in the fall, which seems like it might happen, there's just no time for a tune-up fight.
Yeah, basically. So I'm putting you on the spot now, though. Ahead of time, who do you think wins, Charlo or Tszyu?
I got to go with Charlo. You have to remember that Ocampo is a level or two, probably two below Charlo. Who I see as one of the best fighters in the world, pound for pound. Charlo can box better than Ocampo. He's faster, can punch harder. He's got a better chin, probably. He's more experienced. Everything across the board. There's just no comparison. Anything is possible, but Tszyu could end up on the wrong end of a knockout if he's not careful against Charlo. But I do think he's going to be careful. I think he's going to approach it in the fight in a smart way. He's a smart guy. I just think Charlo's the better fighter across the board. I think he wins a decision in a competitive fight. I don't think he's going to knock out Tszyu, but I think he's going to win a decision, close decision. I want to add something, though. If Charlo doesn't bring his A game, and he didn't in his first fights with Harrison and Castano, he'll probably lose the fight.
Yeah, I think Charlo's an entirely different beast with you as far as the attributes, experience, skill, tough, and proven at the highest level, impeccable resume, impressive performances. It's a top 5 pound for pound fighter at worst, but man, I can't wait for this one. Now, we had a big upset in the co-feature, a battle of undefeated 122-pounders, Australian native Sam Goodman handing Rais Salim the first loss of his career via spirited 12-round split decision win. Before we get into the fight itself, Mike, what did you think of the scorecards?
They were all over the place. It was 117, 111, and 116, 112 for Goodman. And then the third judge, 116, 112 for Rais Salim. So they were really all over the place. I scored at 115, 113 for Goodman, 7 rounds to 5. So I tend to think that all those scores were a little bit wide. But in the end, I think the right guy won.
Well, what do you think of Goodman's performance?
Honestly, I didn't know what to expect because I hadn't seen much of the guy, but now I and everybody else knows he's really good. I think he's a legitimate contender. I thought he was in a little bit of trouble early in the fight. I thought Aleem looked pretty good. He was landing all those body shots, and Goodman just shifted into another gear. He fought with more urgency and just outworked Aleem in the second half of the fight to earn the victory, in my opinion. I had him winning 7 rounds to 5. So I thought he earned it. It was an impressive performance.
Yeah. What does the win mean for him?
It was a breakthrough victory for him. He went from an obscure fighter, at least internationally, to a guy who beat a top respected contender. That's a big step in one fight. He's a player now, which is the position, a fighter has to be in to realize his or her dreams, which is to fight and win a world title. So huge step for Sam Goodman.
Now, this was a huge setback for Rais Salim. What went wrong in your opinion?
Well, in my opinion, the main thing that went wrong for him was Goodman. Goodman is a good well-schooled boxer. Who's also obviously a durable guy. He just brought a lot to the table. I'll add this, though. I always say that you have to have enough firepower, enough punching power to keep your opponent honest. And I'm not sure Aleem demonstrated that in the fight. Aleem never really gave Goodman a reason to back off, which is can be a liability. I guess in retrospect, maybe Aleem should have boxed. He should have moved more than he did. He's not really that kind of fighter. He's a busy guy, a busy puncher. But in this case, maybe he should have adjusted better than he did in the fight. You know, as it was, though, it was a close fight. I mean, it was a pretty good performance. Just wasn't good enough.
Can Aleem bounce back from this?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Again, it was a close fight against a guy that I think is a good fighter. I'm sure he was disappointed, but he gave a solid performance. He'll go back, watch the video, go over one with his team and figure out what he could have done better. And I think he's the kind of guy, talented guy, who's going to come back and be stronger as a result.
Yeah, hope he comes back sooner rather than later. It's time for Mike and I to go toe-to-toe. This week, we're looking back at the Spence versus Crawford press tour, the biggest fight in boxing, all the marbles, the undisputed welterweight championship Saturday, July 29th at T-Mobile Arena in Las Vegas, live on Showtime Pay-Per-View. The two champions launched the announcing of their fight with a two-city press tour, first in Los Angeles on Tuesday, then in New York City on Wednesday. It was a lot of good back and forth, the two fighters sizing each other up. How surreal was it to see Spence and Crawford finally squaring off?
I have to say it was a little weird. That was the word that came to my mind. When a potential matchup is talked about for so long, it's just kind of an idea, really, more than anything else. When they're face to face, it becomes real. Suddenly it's real. This is really happening. It's kind of strange, but it's also really exciting.
Yeah, I mean, I think one thing that came across and even, cut through the trash talk was the level of respect these guys have for each other. I mean, they smiled a little bit at each other in LA when they first faced off, and I later heard Errol telling reporters that it was just appreciating the moment, realizing that moment was now here and they were finally squaring off. But it wasn't all smiles, though. Some good trash talk in LA, and then things really picked up in New York. Who do you think won the battle of the words?
Yeah, I'm going to say it's close to a draw. Listen, as you just said, these guys aren't trash talkers. They're not going to say nasty things about each other. Of course, they're going to express their confidence, which they did, repeatedly. They both believe they're going to win, and they said so in pretty clear terms. But the one thing that did stand out to me was Spence's criticism of Crawford's resume, which was sort of trash talking. So if you forced me to pick a winner of the battle of words, I'd say Spence has a slight edge because of the resume thing, and there's some legitimacy to that.
Yeah, he had some really good one-liners in New York. I thought Crawford came out strong in LA, but Spence made adjustments. I suspect that's how the fight is gonna go as well. Does this fight remind you of any other in history?
It reminds me of Mayweather versus Pacquiao in many ways. 230-something guys, both top welterweights, both at the top of the pound-for-pound lists. Crawford and Spence aren't the legends that Mayweather and Pacquiao were, and the fight won't do 4 million pay-per-view buys in the United States as the other fight did. On the plus side, Crawford and Spence are both undefeated, and I believe closer to their peaks than Mayweather and Pacquiao were at the time of that fight. And Crawford and Spence has just that special feeling to it, like Mayweather Pacquiao did. Like it's just not a normal fight. There's just something really special about it, which is really cool.
Yeah, and just looking on paper, I can't think of any fight in recent memory like this one. I mean, they're both undefeated, top pound for pounders, respected world champions, and they have an exciting style in the ring, to go along with their drawing power. This is just a perfect combination. What does a win here mean for each fighter's legacy?
Oh, man, it means everything. This is the fight that will probably define them, win or lose. If you win, particularly if you win convincingly, you're the top welterweight of the post-Mayweather Pacquiao era, which is saying a lot. If you lose, you're the guy who couldn't quite get to the absolute pinnacle. I think this might apply slightly more to Crawford than Spence. Again, Spence is right to some degree about Crawford's resume. He does have a better resume than Crawford. Spence has beaten Kell Brook, Mikey Garcia, Sean Porter, Danny Garcia, Yordenis Ugas. Crawford beat Brook and Spence, but that was after Spence sort of softened him up. Spence already has a strong resume right now. I think Crawford desperately needs this victory to prove, he's as good as many of us have believed all these years. Anyway, this fight obviously is enormous for both guys. That's one of the main reasons that it's compelling. It's really, really significant fight for them and for boxing.
Yeah, I mean, I think it solidifies Hall of Fame credentials for the winner, and depending on the performance, could elevate the winner to all-time great status. As far as right now, they're probably going to be rated the best fighter in the world, pound for pound, whoever wins. So there is a lot on the line when Spence and Crawford meet up on July 29th, and I can't wait for this fight. We'll be covering it a lot more in the coming weeks, but that's going to do it for this week's show. We want to thank Stephen Fulton for coming by, and of course, you for tuning in. Be sure to check us out next week for more boxing talk right here on the PBC Podcast.